And here's our new board. In keeping with the ice cream theme, this one is called Blue Moon. You may recall we've also got Rocky Road and Chocolate Chip at this point, so we're going to keep on going with that until we're totally tired of that mnemonic. This one features a 96 by 96 RGB OLED, as you can see right there on the silk. Really nice little display. It's actually RGB 888, so you can get full color display on there. Just a little bigger than a thumb or so. I've got medium-sized hands, I'd say. But you can get a nice little display on there. Put up some actual full-color graphics. It's got a 8-bit parallel interface, which is a little bit different than the Rocky Road and the Chocolate Chip boards, which use SPI and I2C respectively. This one is 8-bit parallel, so it's got 8 bits of data. It's got a reset. It's got latch and read-write and stuff like that. So you can actually get a decent refresh rate on this thing if you go down into the C-level drivers. With wiring Pi and QT, it's a little bit clunky because you're sitting there, basically bit banging that entire interface. Certainly you can do better than we can for our example code, and I invite you to do that. But as it stands, it's actually a rather nice little board. A little more complicated than the others. So over here we have actually a 15-volt boost circuit. The IC driver on this actually requires about a 15-volt bias for the column drivers because it's got 3x3x3 RGB on there, so a little more complicated. Just a very simple boost circuit. Takes the 5 volts off of the Pi that it gives me and boosts it up to 15, and relatively stable. Fairly happy with that. Moving around the board, we've got the I2C EEPROM on there for ID and a little bit of data on there. I believe we put a 64K on that. Moving around, we've got some I/O broken out here. Since it does take up most of the connector, I took some of the remaining routes and put those out to the side. So you get 3 volts, you get transmit and receive from UART 0, and you get a couple extra I/Os broken out to go out to the rest of the world. I put a little bit of protection on there. There's a 390 ohm resistor in series and a couple of TVS diodes just to kind of protect it, protect you from yourself. I wouldn't necessarily put this in a car, but on the lab and playing around at home, it should work fairly well and be fairly robust. The astute among you may notice that we've got some extra componentry on here. We've got D1, D2, D3 LEDs on there. There we are. They actually have about a 15-degree angle, and they are infrared because we put an infrared proximity and gesture sensor on there from Vishay. Very cool little part. Actually controls those 3 channels independently so that it can actually give you some gesture recognition across those 3 infrared diodes. As you move your hand across it, you'd cover D3 and it'd reflect back to the little window on the part there, then D2 and then D1, and you can interpret that as a swipe to the left. D1, then D2, then D3 would be a swipe to the right. You can get D2, then D1 and D3. That's an up-down. So very clever. Also gives you ambient light. So it's got a couple extra little channels on there to look at things. Kind of a neat little breakout board, and kind of gives you some of that cool Star Trek-y type gesturing, swipe right, swipe left, and change the graphics on the display, do a non-touch interface without using capacitive sense, so kind of neat. Fairly happy with this board. Again, that's the Blue Moon, and stay tuned for the demo software we put together using Qt and wiring Pi.